Today's question comes from Robert in Tennessee. To say the home selling market in Tennessee is hot is an understatement, but I also have heard it's the worst time to buy a home for that very reason. The value of our home has gone up considerably, and my wife and I would like to sell in order to upgrade to a larger home. Is now the right time to cash in our equity and make this purchase?
What do you think?
It's a good question from Robert. Well, he's saying the value of his home has gone up, and, everyone's has because it's a hot market. And so there's this fever to go, well, I want to sell, I can upgrade, but here's the problem. When you go to upgrade, well, now you're trying to buy a house that is also appreciated in value. And so there's kind of a trade-off here where you've got to go, what's the right move financially? Regardless of where the market's at, can I afford that upgraded house? Is it a wise move for us to do, regardless of what your house is going to sell for?
Yeah. The problem with selling at the top of the market is you have to buy at the top of the market. The problem with selling in a frenzied market where there's 17 offers in 2 days is you have to buy in a frenzied market where there's 17 offers in 2 days. And so unless you are somehow, for some reason, making some kind of a different move where you cash out now but use that money later or use it in a different way, then just to buy in a frenzied market and sell in a frenzied market is, it's frenzied. Hello. I mean, high stress scenario to do it right now. And so I think the breakdown, at least in the way you've worded your question, the breakdown in your wife's logic is she sees that you can get a lot for your house but hasn't considered that it's going to take a lot to buy the next one. And so I don't think homes are going to come down. They've gone way up, but not artificially. It's just it was an artificial demand, and it was a COVID supply demand in the basically the new housing market. The supply chain got screwed up because the lumber market and a few other markets, they couldn't get houses out of the ground, and labor market couldn't get houses out of the ground, and that slowed up and created a supply demand problem, meaning there was a shortage of housing, and that drove this market and created a little bit of artificial inflation. But I don't think next year houses are going to come down. I don't think the year after that they're going to come down. And why do I think that? Because I got my real estate license in 1978. And if you look back on the real estate market since 1950, so 75 years, you've not seen houses go down in value in 75 years, year over year, except in a few markets once. And that was 2008, when there was a housing bubble and there was a real problem, a housing economic crisis. This is not a housing economic crisis. This is an overall supply chain screw up due to COVID. And the economic suppression that came along with making everyone sit in their homes on their thumbs. And it screwed up the economy. Now, you can argue about the medical part of it or not, but you can't really argue about the economic part of it. It screwed up the economy. Making people sit at home and not work screwed up the economy, straight up, okay? So, would you buy and sell a house this year? Only if you want the stress of selling in a frenzied market and buying in a frenzied market. I don't worry about the height of the prices as much as I do the process. The process to sell a typical home today is you're basically having an auction. And the process for buying a typical home today is you're basically having an auction. And that is a high-stress scenario for most people. And people end up doing things they regret later in high-stress scenarios. So unless you've got a situation where you can move. I'm moving this year, but I sold a ridiculously large house that really would have been very tough to sell in any kind of market other than this. Mm. And I thought, you know what, God, if you want to sell this house, I've had fun with it for 12 years. This sounds like a really good time to get out. And I got out. And I cashed out. But I'm doing something different there than just moving from house to house to house to house. I'm about a house, but it's not nowhere near as big and all this. And so we didn't even say we need to downsize. We didn't say that. We said, hey, we're going to cash out at the top on this, and we'll just buy something over here. That's a little different than I want to move up, and neither one of the homes we bought are typical either, by the way.
And our team, the Ramsey research team, just released the Q2 State of Personal Finance study, and they found that the majority of people are waiving inspections and appraisals because of how crazy it is. They are way overpaying above asking price. I'm not talking about $2,000 more. We're talking $50,000, $75,000 above asking to get a
guy on our team sold a $750,000 house the other day, $120,000 above market, and he took one of the 22 offers.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was about a month and a half
And that's what
ago.
they're going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
If they sell this house, well, now they've got a whole other situation over here. So I don't think it's this, hey, the housing market's hot, let's all sell right now. It's not going to work out like that.
Well, I mean, if you got someplace else to live until the thing cools off, that's okay. But to buy and the repurchasing of it is the problem in most people's situation right now. I will tell you this too. In the last 90 days, the market has calmed down considerable. I'd say the activity is about half of what it was in Middle Tennessee. It's still very hot, but it was white hot, frenzied 90 days ago.
Yeah.
That story I just told you was about 90 days ago that happened.